Hello and welcome to our presentation on mobile commerce. I'm Andy Pratt from Oporteo, and I specialise in digital for wholesale distribution and food service businesses, particularly in the food and drink industry. Over the next 15 minutes or so, what I wanted to do is share some of the strategies that people are using in the industry to support mobile users, and some of the technologies that are shaping both their strategies and also our own development roadmaps. So mobile has become one of the prevalent browsing tools of today, really. So 15% of internet activity is driven through mobile devices. So this is extremely important for businesses to consider this when making sure that they get exposure and provide a seamless and friction-free shopping experience and customer service experience for their customers. Technology is moving on quickly and the market adapting to retain a competitive edge. And this is shaping the approaches of how online experiences are delivered for mobile users. So first of all, what are the technologies which are used? These basically fall into two camps. We have the mobile app, which is the traditional method of writing an application for a mobile device, which is then distributed to the users through an app store such as Apple or Google, or others are available, of course. The app runs on the device and the user interacts with the app on the device in a normal way. The web app is basically terminology for, in effect, a website, but the website which is accessible and optimized for a browser on a mobile device. So designed to fit the footprint of the device and use some of the navigation tools on there. We've been providing, for the last 15 years, solutions based on both of these approaches. And what we'd like to do is really talk about where these technologies come from and where they are today. Try and offer a practical comparison between the two different approaches, and then just summarize why we are generally encouraging our clients to go down the web application route due to some of the benefits for these kind of our kind of clients. Now, obviously everybody's situation is different, but generally these are what we're finding today. So let me take you back to 2007. We saw the launch of the iPhone for the first time. To contrast that, if we look at Amazon, for example, Amazon's first website was founded back in 1995. So clearly way before smartphones became on the market and started to grow popularity. So websites were really developed with desktops in mind, resulting in websites which are very difficult and clunky to use on a mobile device. So for example, we can see a non-responsive website on the left-hand side, which has very small text and boxes that are virtually impossible to use on a mobile device. So what happened? The technology companies developed mobile applications specifically for the mobile devices, which gave that kind of experience and interacted better with the device. So on the right-hand side, we can see our happens to be our particular app, which you can see is more intuitive, larger button sizes, less content on the screen, so it makes it more usable for the users. If we roll forward to today, technology has significantly improved and moved on. As mobile use increased generally since 2007, then web technologies have advanced and developed to suit that. So today we're offered mobile first and responsive web applications which are designed to identify the particular device that a user is using and adopt the user experience to make it optimal for that device. So here we have our Oporteo demonstration system on a mobile device, and as you can see, it fits the screens well. The navigation is optimized to using a thumb and those kind of things. So it's really closed the gap between the user experience of mobile websites or web apps, as we call them, and sort of native apps. In addition, relatively new technology called PWA, or Progressive Web Applications. This is a term that was coined by Google back in 2015, so relatively new technology. But this is transforming how web applications can run on mobile devices even further. So it addresses some of the initial challenges, such as making it work offline, making greater use of the device's resources, such as cameras and all those kind of things. And it's seen by many analysts as being the catalyst which is going to move brands from native apps onto PWAs or web applications, because it gives you just so much benefits, and that we're going to kind of run through today. So what I'd like to do in the next few slides is just touch on comparisons between where we are today in terms of deploying a mobile app or deploying a mobile website or web app, as we call it. So I'm going to start with the customer engagement side of things. So extremely important in terms of how the user experiences this. I'm going to start with accessibility. So how does a customer actually get hold and interact with your proposition? So with an app, it's downloaded from an app store and installed on the device, and then the user will interact with that on their device, just like any app on their device. With the web, this is accessed through a device's browser and is always available on demand without having to download. And that's fairly important, because downloads can be a barrier in our experience for adoption, particularly with the prevalence of apps out there from banking, Facebook and whatever people use on their phones. Then devices can become cluttered. So unless you're a very well-known brand or somebody that your customer interacts with many times in a day, then that can be a little bit of a challenge, and typically apps have quite a high attrition rate on devices. In terms of presence, apps do have a benefit here, because they, when these are downloaded, they're automatically placed on the device's home screen or on the screens available to the user as an icon, so the user can just click on an icon and be taken there. So you're always on their device screen. The web is accessed through the browser. However, you can easily put a shortcut onto the device so that your brand and presence can also be seen. So although not quite as slick as an app, it does give a very similar experience. PWA is also advancing this so that the web app will look exactly like an app in terms of its presence on the home screen, so that further kind of bringing those two together. Availability. Apps are typically designed to work both online and offline. Orders can be stored, so if there's connectivity issues, then the order, for example, can be stored and then sent through when connectivity is restored. With the web apps, then they are really designed to be working online, so it does require a connectivity. However, PWA again is driving offline usage, so again addressing those kind of differences. One other thing we have to bear in mind is that irrespective of the method used, an order still has to travel from the device to your business, so that requires connectivity. So really, either solutions do require connectivity to fully function. On the communication side, apps do support push notifications, providing the customer has allowed that within their personal settings. The web would typically rely on text messages or emails, which can be linked to content on the web app. So if you're communicating an offer, for example, then a link on your email or within your text can take the user directly to the page, which has the relevant details just at the click of a button. So quite a lot of flexibility there. In addition, these kind of links can be placed maybe on partner sites and things like this. So that kind of gives a little bit more flexibility than apps for that. Again, PWA is introducing web notifications into the portfolio as well. In terms of devices, an app is purely available on mobile. So where you're looking to give customers a broad experience, and remember there are quite a large population out there who still use desktops or tablets, then the web provides a solution for that. So it offers a single platform that will then be used on mobile, tablet or desktop and optimized for those kind of experiences just on a single platform. So it supports all the user preferences on a single platform. So we move our attention to the development side of things. You may choose to take ownership of development internally and do that yourself, or you may be using a partner to do that with you. So irrespective, these kind of issues affect the speed and the cost of actually being able to develop functionality and take your developments further. So an app is typically developed on specific software, either specific to the device or more general software, but then uses a wrapper that converts a common code set into either Apple or Google or Windows or whatever the flavor is. With a web approach, then we're using much more common development languages which are much more widely understood and used by programmers. We're also taking advantage of some of the more advanced facilities such as content management systems, so that users have more control over the design and the presentation of what's coming up on the screen without having to go back to developers. There's also quite a large marketplace associated with web platforms, so where you're looking for functionality, these can often be sort of bought off the shelf, so to speak, and plugged in very easily. So the whole environment is much more agile and cost effective in terms of development going forward, whether you do it or whether it's done by a partner. When we're actually looking to get these changes out there to your customers, then an app would distribute those through an app store, often requiring approval by the owners of the app store. Once they arrive on the device with the users, they will require an upgrade that's done by the user. With the web approach, changes are available immediately in real time. So as soon as you are publishing those to your web servers, then next time your customer visits you, then of course they'll have the new experience without having to upgrade anything. So much more faster and agile and quicker kind of environment. Functional breadth is an interesting one. So on an app, the level of functionality can be restricted. We find that with particularly complex or large pieces of functionality, app sizes can be quite large, and the volume of data that's needed to be stored on the device can be large as well, particularly in the B2B context, where things like complexity of price and promotions and things like that can lead to very large data volumes. With the web, however, all the heavy lifting is done by the web servers, so off the device. So virtually limitless levels of functionality and capability can be incorporated without impacting too much on the user's device and experience. So again, all about easier to develop complex functionality. That generally leads to a lower cost of ownership. So maintaining and releasing new functionality tend to be less using the web approach. Also bear in mind that because you can have a common platform to support desktop and mobile, then every piece of development is by default distributed across those two channels without having to duplicate work. Let's just look at the actual devices. So traditionally apps have had better access to mobile device resources. As technology has moved on, today web applications, websites have much more access. So through cameras to using the phone system on the phone are all readily available and used these days. And again, PWA is bringing that even closer. So there's not much you can do with a web app than you can do with a native mobile app. One of the important things you should consider as well is exposure. So you'll be looking to get your brand presence, product offer out there to your customers and prospective customers. With an app, you are restricted as you are behind a somewhat of a firewall. So content on your app is not readily available to people who are outside of that app. So what people tend to do, whether they have a mobile app strategy, is to also invest in web technology and websites to provide that visibility. If you're using a web solution for your mobile strategy, then by default you've got automatic exposure to online browsing and search engine optimization and those kind of tools. So your customers can find you a lot easier through Google or referrals or whatever you want to do. And finally, the consistency across your channels. So with an app, if you have a website as well, then you're having to duplicate that. So if I'm updating content or changing my messaging, then you've got that kind of duplication again. With a web solution, then you're doing it just in one place and that proliferates out and gives consistency across the board. So those are the main differences, and those have really driven our strategy towards investing quite heavily in the Oporteo platform as a mobile-first responsive web solution. So something that can be deployed once and accessed by mobile, desktop, tablet users and given the experience associated with that. We will continue to support and maintain our mobile apps. These have a place in certain circumstances, but the market's clearly moving towards web applications as a preference. So I hope you found that useful. Any comments or observations, we'd be interested, or if you'd like to discuss any of this further, then my details are on the page. And I hope you have a good day, and thank you for listening.